Hey everyone, I'm Mackenzie, the Spirits Manager here at Everything Wine and More in Sherwood Park. And today we're going to be looking at another quintessential cocktail. This one's a really exciting one for me because in Alberta we're finally starting to open things up. We can see people have drinks together, and what better drink to have with people than a punch? If you've ever been to one of my parties, you know I always make a mean punch. So let's talk about the secrets of my punch and like punches in general. And before we get into things, I'm just gonna drop the one and only punch reference you'll ever need. David Wodrich's Punch. This is where I learned everything. It goes really in depth into the history of punch, the making of punch. It is more info on punch than you could ever need, but it's really great. So the one kind of rhyme that we usually use when making a punch is 1 of sour, 2 of sweet, 3 of strong, 4 of weak. So the 1 of sour being some sort of citrus, usually lemon or orange or lime. The 2 of sweet being sugar, 3 of strong, any spirit. In this case, we're going to be using a blend of rums. And then the 4 of weak is usually going to be water or tea. Now, 1 of sour, 2 of sweet, 3 of strong, 4 of weak. When you do 2 of sweet, I personally find it's a bit too sweet, so I usually go with 1 of sour, 1 of sweet, 3 of strong, 4 of weak. Doesn't have that nice aromatic progression, but it works out to be a really nice punch anyways. So the first thing we're gonna do is, when we're using all this citrus, I also not only wanna use the juice, but I wanna use the rind. So when I held up the lemon earlier, you might have noticed I've peeled the rind off of it. And so I've just peeled it all into a measuring cup here. And what I want to do is I want to be able to extract those essential oils in the peel and have them come out in my punch. So I'm going to take my peels of, in this case, 4 lemons and a couple oranges. And I'm going to take 1 of sweet. So in this case, we'll be using a cup or 250 mils. We'll use those interchangeably here. When making a punch, you don't have to be super exact, right? Making a punch is a bit more of an art than a science. You can really be creative. In the end, you're gonna come and taste the punch at the very end. So you're just gonna adjust the taste at the very end. Okay, so I've got my cup of sugar in there on top of all the orange and lemon zest, and I'm just gonna muddle it for a bit. Really beat up those citrus zests. Mix that around a bit. And I'm just gonna let that sit for a half hour to an hour to let the sugar really extract those citrus zests. And while that's sitting, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make some tea. So the 4 of weak is either gonna be 4 parts water or 4 parts tea. I usually like to do tea just to switch things up, give it an extra layer of flavor. So for making tea, you want to remember a couple things. If you're making a black tea, you bring the water to a full boil and then soak the tea leaves for about 3 to 5 minutes. You don't want to oversteep it. If you're using a green tea, light boil, just like until you see those champagne bubbles, then cut the water off and then steep for 2 to 3 minutes. So in this case, I'm just using a raspberry flavored black tea. You can really get creative with what sort of tea you're using. So I'm gonna boil the tea and I'm gonna make it. I've obviously made this ahead of time, and I'm gonna let it cool a little bit, but so that it's still warm. And when it's still warm, after that half hour to an hour, I'm gonna pour the tea in my measuring cup. So 4 parts tea, so 4 cups in this case, and I'm just gonna stir it until the sugar dissolves. So what I've got in this jug is my citrus peel and sugar mixture, and then topped that with tea, stirred it around. So I've kind of got a sweet tea here. So I've got my my sweet and my weak in here. So let's just add this to the punch bowl. So I've got all 4 parts and 1 part of sweet there. Okay, now we need our 1 of sour. So I've squeezed some limes and lemons ahead of time. And on the topic of limes, when I do this sort of citrus zest sugar mixture, if I'm using limes, I'm gonna omit them because they're usually a bit too bitter. But I'm still gonna want that lime juice for the 1 part of sour. So this is just half and half lemon and lime. And I want 1 part of that. So in this case, a cup, or about 250 mils. And that's fresh squeezed lemon and lime, right? That's gonna make all the difference in the punch. Give that a little stir. So I've got my 1 part of sour, 1 part of sweet, 4 parts of weak. And now let's move on to the 3 parts strong. And here I'm not just using Mount Gay. You'll notice if I bring this up to another bottle of Mount Gay, mine looks a bit darker. So what I like to do at home is have like a house rum blend, because in a lot of punches and tiki drinks, they often call for multiple rums from different countries. So in this bottle, I've just got equal parts rum from Guyana, Demerara, Lemon Heart, Mount Gay Eclipse, and then a nice funky Jamaican rum, the Worthy Park Rum Bar Gold. So I've just mixed those equal parts into 1 bottle, and I'll just let that marry indefinitely. This is my house rum blend. And this is my favorite part of making any punch. 3 parts strong, so that's about 3 cups or 750 mils. And remember, this serves a lot of people. That's definitely the most satisfying part of making a punch. Okay, now let's give that a little stir. Now I'm gonna chill this in the fridge. Personally, I like to leave the ice to my guests and myself to leave after I've poured it, just so I don't have a bunch of ice sitting in there, diluting it over the course of the evening. Another alternative is 1 giant block of ice. If you've got any sort of like soft plastic, you know, when you get the spring mix from the grocery store and you got that soft plastic container at the end, that's a great vessel for making a giant ice cube after you're done with your spinach. Or you can have just the ice on the side for your guests to serve. That's what I usually do. And I'm not done making the punch yet, because the most important part is tasting it and then seeing, do I need to adjust? Is it a bit too strong? Do I need to add a bit of sugar? If I'm using tea instead of water, often it will need a bit of sugar. One thing to remember is this rum here and many other rums, so the Lemon Heart does have a bit of added sugar. I might also want to add a bit of water just to kind of thin all the flavors out. But anyways, that's the gist of making a punch. So my recipe is going to differ from yours, but mine is 1 part sour, 1 part sweet, 3 parts strong, 4 parts weak. And we just kind of did like a classic rum punch with just a bit of a twist with that raspberry flavored black tea. Some of my other favorite punch recipes are a peach flavored black tea with some bourbon. So you get like a peach bourbon iced tea thing going on, or a nice green tea like a sencha with tequila and lime and grapefruit. That's just killer in the summer as well. Anyways, let us know in the comments, what's your favorite punch that you make? Anyways, see you next month.